So my question to you, Rob, is around what's happening in the pain points in the New Zealand economy and further afield, and it's really around what is the current state out there from your own sort of observations and talking to your clients, what can businesses do to better equip themselves to withstand the storm that we're told is coming our way.
Yeah, well, the New Zealand economy is definitely impacted by global events, current global events. There's two in particular. There's in Europe the war in the Ukraine, and that's unlikely to be resolved short term. And that has an impact on energy levels. There's all sorts of things that are happening in that space to try and deter the Russians from receiving the levels of income that they were used to try and stifle their impact on that war.
Yep.
And then there's the ongoing scenario with COVID, and in particular the extreme measures that China are introducing or have introduced over the last few months in terms of shutting down certain areas, certain important areas, particularly for New Zealand in terms of supply of resources or products. And that's having a direct impact on the way businesses act here in New Zealand, and it's creating problems in terms of scarcity of resources. So it's both of those are very disruptive. There's high inflation in New Zealand, and there's a struggle to bring that under control. We're seeing in the States unprecedented almost increases in base interest rates. Whether that happens here or not, that's still to be seen, but it's certainly going up. And so from a business perspective, what could or should businesses do to help minimise the impact or the adverse impact of these sort of events? Certainly around cash flow and debt management. It's an area of focus that most businesses should be doing. They shouldn't be highly geared. If they are, they should be trying to reduce that gearing, because as interest rates go up, as revenue levels come down, they're going to find it harder to service those debt requirements. So to protect them would be to make sure that they're not taking on too much debt at this time. Capital, on the other hand, if they can raise capital to provide themselves with some sort of buffer, that's not a bad thing. But not all organisations are in that position to be able to do that. So that's one thing. I suppose the other is a mindset, a culture, and the way they go about business. Businesses need to be more agile. So in their decision making, they need the capacity to be able to change what they're doing and change it quickly as the market changes. So that's introducing that agile mentality and methodology around making small, quick changes to the way they're doing things. Then there's a look internally at that how they're operating, and look at trying to improve the efficiency of processes and minimising waste and inefficiencies. And again, agile is an approach that would help with that, as is digital transformation, so automating processes that are otherwise not that effective or efficient. And then I suppose the other area is just looking at what's not working and cease those operations. So being quite basing it on evidence, but being quite brutal in the way that you make decisions around what the business should be doing and what's actually costing the business in times when your GP is an important measure of how well the business is doing, especially at a time when your revenue may be declining. You've got to make sure that you protect those margins.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I mean, we're both passionate advocates for business planning, rather than adopting a chaotic view on what we should be doing in business, our personal sort of view is one where sort of every significant action that a business undertakes should be underpinned by a business case that pulls together all the pertinent information before you embark on actually doing it. The reality is that there are constraints both within New Zealand and internationally. Businesses have time constraints and financial constraints. So so reprioritising what the business should be doing is sort of really important, and making a call on stopping something if it's not going to deliver the right sort of value compared to another initiative. So having ensuring that there's strategic alignment to achieving the right outcomes, but having the information available and making the call where a business needs to stop doing something is quite a brave step, but it needs to be done, particularly when things are tough in the economy, which is what we're dealing with at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's a case of realigning to making sure that whatever the business is doing, and it might be they produce hundreds, if not thousands, of products. It's making sure that their focus is on those that make a difference. Realigning the resources, whether it's workforce, whether it's business operations, to support those winning products, if you like, and discontinuing those that are marginal at best. It's really important. Also, in a time where we're not seeing the growth that we have traditionally, it's looking at how best to manage your workforce. We've talked in the past about scarcity of resource, and that includes the labour force. What you don't want to get, the position that you don't want to be in, is where you have to get rid of people for a short period of time, and then struggle to actually find that labour resource, that skill set, months, if not only 18 months down the line, when things are starting to improve. Businesses need to be smart about how they manage that, whether it's reduce hours, whether it's put them on unpaid leave for a couple of weeks, or whatever the case may be. They need to be inventive in that sort of space, but looking to try and hold on as much as possible to the workforce that they have.
Yeah, another sort of area which is often overlooked, the focus tends to be with a lot of our clients who we deal with, is on the profit and loss of the operating performance, and looking at ways of growing margin and cutting costs back, all of which is sort of important. But sometimes the lead time into actually sort of achieving change in the profit and loss can take a while. You've got customers that are tied into contracts and suppliers that are tied into contracts, and there is the ability to cut back into discretionary costs, but it's not always an immediate thing. One of the areas that we focus with being finance professionals is looking at lazy balance sheets as well. So how can we liquidate assets that aren't providing value? How can we extend our creditor terms so that we're paying off debt later? Effectively, what can we do to free up cash? Because you can't pass that old adage about cash is king in business. So all of these initiatives that we're talking about, it's all about achieving that outcome effectively.
Yep, I agree. For those that sell products, it's about stock turn, improving that stock turn, because you want to get the stock in, and then you want to sell it as quick as possible. Converting that into cash. So again, it's about looking at slow moving stock and going, is that something that we should be continuing with? And particularly if it's slow moving and average margins, then those are the sort of decisions that businesses need to be making now, quickly, and going, no more. Our focus is in other areas.
Yeah, agreed. And just related to that, there's an opportunity cost of holding on to inventory and what you're forfeiting by way of margin on a different product line that might move a lot quicker, and then the cash flow effects from that. So again, it is about having the evidence-based information from accounting systems and that sort of data level to make those sort of insightful judgments about things, so that you can make a sort of a commercially rigorous review and deciding how to move forward.